Hello and welcome to a quick training video with me and Mary Paulus, my mentor. She's been working in addiction recovery since 1990. Do you want to start off, Mary, by giving a bit of a background on yourself, or should we just get straight into this?
Well, I think we can get straight into it. I think you said it. I've been working with addiction for 30 years and glad to be here with you helping out with the porn addiction, which is there's a lot of suffering going on. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah.
joining me. And that's the thing is that there's so much misinformation out there, and that's what this video is going to cover. It's basically like why you've been going wrong for so long, because I had been going wrong for 9, maybe 10 years. And then I eventually met Mary. I was coached and was like, oh my God, I've been doing everything wrong for the last 10 years. So here is the porn habit cycle. How it starts off is you have a trigger that's going to be either emotional or external, like like a fit girl on Instagram or something like that. And what happens is that like most people are focusing on removing these triggers. So they're talking about getting rid of the blockers and things like that. But what we're going to teach you throughout this very short mini course is that what you really want to do is focus on the craving, as that's how you change the neural pathways and gain permanent freedom. So the first thing to just talk about here is, yeah, your triggers. Basically, you're going to have internal triggers. These are your thoughts, feelings, loneliness, shame, sadness, frustration, anger, being stressed out, being tired, eating too much food and feeling full. These are all the sort of emotional triggers that you're probably going to experience. And then there's the physical triggers, things like, yeah, seeing girls on Instagram or just out there online, because triggers are absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
But most people will put the blockers in place, get into self-improvement, distract themselves, learn new lessons after relapses, do all this kind of like inner healing work and therapy, and delete social media or try and find their purpose or meaning, start socializing, and then go on these no-fap streaks. This is exactly what I did. And I actually thought I was making progress because I was doing these no-fap streaks, and my streak would get longer and longer and longer. And then eventually the inevitable relapse, because there's always another trigger. So, Mary, do you want to talk about why focusing on all of these things just does not work?
Well, I would say the first thing is, like you mentioned, is triggers. You can't avoid triggers. You don't know where they're going to come up. It can be something as simple as a change in the weather, and as long as your neural pathways are wired from wanting to engage in the porn to acting on it, then the triggers, I mean, it's going to happen regardless. And trying to avoid triggers, I mean, that's the popular advice, right? Go out there and do so that you're going to outrun the triggers. Well, outrunning the triggers is impossible. For starters, you're going to have triggers, and if you are avoiding triggers, then you do not get the opportunity to change the neural pathway. And now it's not like you want to go, trigger yourself on purpose and put yourself into the middle of some, Instagram, what are those ladies called on there?
Well, OnlyFans.
Oh yeah, those ones. Yeah. Or, you don't want to be putting yourself into these kinds of situations, but not avoiding triggers doesn't mean triggering yourself on purpose. Triggers are going to happen, so you need to learn to deal with them very directly. And learning to deal with them very directly, that's where the change is going to come from. So
Yeah.
it's impossible to avoid triggers. And who's ever out there teaching people to avoid triggers, I don't know what planet they're living on, because we've talked about it. You're going to literally, we'd have to put you in a dark cave, and lock you in there and give you food and water every now and then. It's like, it's literally impossible to avoid triggers because the triggers are coming from a neural pathway that is established in your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This guy yesterday in one of these sort of communities where people are trying to quit porn was sort of criticizing one of my posts, because I was explaining how you really need to focus on the urges in terms of like your recovery. Like if you want to quit this permanently, you have to deal with the urges, the cravings. That's where the
Yeah.
neural pathways are changed, is in those moments.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of irrelevant in a way. There's not really
Yeah.
that much else to learn other than dealing with the cravings. But anyway, I was posting that in one of these communities, just trying to help people. And this guy replies like, "Oh, so now I'm thinking of like getting rid of my blocker. Now I'm going to relapse because of you or something like that. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
I cannot take any responsibility for you
yeah,
not having the ability to deal with your cravings. That's
yeah,
100% on you. So he's using he's got junky thinking, as we talk about in
yeah,
the program. And it's just like, come on, like you have to realize you have a choice here. You have the choice, option A or option B. You relapse or
yeah,
you don't relapse.
yeah.
If you keep on denying yourself that choice, then you're never ever going to be free. It really
That's
is that
right.
simple. You're never ever going to be free until you realize that you actually do have a choice, and the choice is whether you relapse or you don't relapse. And removing your triggers is denying you the real freedom that you actually have in life.
And now it's your
Mm.
fault, Tom, because you told him to go and trigger himself.
It's all my fault.
Like,
It's all
no,
my
that's
fault.
that, but that addictive part of the mind, gets very defensive when people don't know how to deal directly with the addictive part of their mind. They get real defensive because truthfully, the guy probably is feeling super helpless because he doesn't know what to do with his urges, right? So he's like, "Oh
Mm.
my God, if I unblock and then I have the urges, then I'm going to relapse." Well, yeah, it probably is because he doesn't have a way to deal with it. He can keep running and running and distracting and whatever. He knows it's not going to work. So, but at that moment, it's easy to just blame you. It's going to
Yeah,
relapse
yeah,
because you said to go trigger himself. No, that's not what you said. You're saying you can't avoid triggers, so let's learn to deal with them. And
yeah,
then it will be
exactly.
in a position of empowerment rather than that whole helplessness thing about, oh my God, if I see anything, I'm going to relapse. Well, no, maybe you're going to want to, but we teach people how to deal with the wanting. So
Mm.
yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's the thing as well. Like, it's not his fault that he started replying to me in that way because he's been taught by all of these gurus and no-fap experts and addiction experts who have hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube that you need to reduce your triggers. I mean, I showed you that video the other day. It had 300,000 views,
Yeah,
and there was a woman literally saying to reduce your triggers. She had no real experience working in addiction, but
yeah,
she had tons of views, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank you so much. You really helped me." But it's like,
yeah,
yeah, you can remove your triggers, and you think that you're progressing. You think that, oh yeah, I've got this good no fap streak, so now I'm like
yeah,
succeeding. But then you just relapse. It literally is like this photo. So this is just a photo of me with a friend like a few years
yeah,
back. We were playing Jenga, and it's like you can keep on finding new ways of reducing triggers and getting like taller sort of Jenga
yeah,
models, like longer streaks, but then
yeah,
it always is going to crash. You can't keep
yeah.
on removing the triggers. It's going to crash. You're going to relapse. So that's how addiction
Yeah.
works.
Triggers don't disappear miraculously by avoiding them. Avoiding triggers does not make triggers stop happening. It's a myth. But to the wellness people, they don't know what else to do. So they're trying to help people, but no, yeah, it's not really working. So as you're living proof of. So yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I mean, I tried it for 10 years. I literally tried it for 10 years, and that's why I'm now on this mission to help people change the way in which they approach this problem. And here's why dealing with urges is the most important thing, because what you're going to get on the other side of actually dealing with these urges and cravings properly with a very specific script is you're going to have total freedom and no restrictions at all on what you can and can't do. So I remember in the past, I wouldn't ever dare to go on Instagram or TikTok or lay down in my bed or go to the toilet on my phone. It's like I had all these rules and conditions that were placed upon me by the addicted part of my mind, really, because it kind of said, well, if I have these restrictions in place, then I'm not going to relapse. But then if those restrictions kind of went out the window, I'd get out of control and I'd be spun out into a state of helplessness, which the addicted mind loves to take advantage of you. So then you relapse. But what dealing with urges does is it makes you like, it puts you in this place where you can really just do anything you want to do. You don't have to like think about this problem anymore. You don't worry about triggers. You don't worry about relapsing. And then on top of that, it's like you're actually rewiring the addicted neural pathways as well for permanent freedom. Because as I've said, like aiming for no five streaks is not good enough. I think a lot of people think that's progress, but it's not progress. Relapses are not fun. I've experienced a lot of relapses, and I've done a lot of no five streaks that have been long, and then I ended up just relapsing and like feeling so bad afterwards, like just full of shame and frustration and like hating myself and not wanting to socialize. And it's possible to actually have permanent freedom here. And that's what we're aiming towards. And it's not just that, but it's like feeling totally in control of yourself and no longer worrying or thinking about potentially relapsing. You just got stability, consistency, and permanent mental freedom. And when you have that permanent mental freedom, you then have all this space in your mind to actually focus on the things you do want in life, build healthy relationships, and just really do what you want instead of focusing on this one thing you don't want in life, which is a horrible place to be. Addiction's not fun. I've been there for a long time. So yeah, Mary, anything to add to that?
Oh, not really. I just feel like, this, I think that people underestimate what permanent mental freedom really means when they haven't had an opportunity, because like you say, when you're no-fap streaks, you're just keeping kind of running, and okay, now I did a streak and then I relapse, and now it's like, oh my God, once you have that relapse, it's like, oh, now you're really wanting it and you're wanting it more, and now you're like trying to control it, and that it takes so much energy that when people, it's been so many years and years, like for you, that you'd never experienced any mental freedom. So for us to say, are you going to get permanent mental freedom, when they don't know what that feels like, it's like, it's harder to relate. But once you have the script and are able to think it through and actually do the change in the neural pathways, really rewire that, and you can see what it's like to not have this constant, desire that you have to deal with or try to not think about or whatever, that, and then you get that permanent mental freedom. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now I get this. And then once people get that, they're not going to give it up because they have some trigger. They're just going to think it through and go, yeah, this is what I want for myself. And then, like you say, there's a lot of extra energy, that the addiction just sucks you of when you're in it, and that you can put toward what you really want for your life, because addiction's all consuming, it really is mentally.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think this is the other sort of place where people go wrong, is that when they're facing the urges, because there is so much misinformation and there's like so much advice out there on what to do with urges, like there's not really any clear answer.
Yeah.
So often the advice I've received has actually been quite complicated as well. So it's been like, well,
Yeah.
start off with doing this, and then if that doesn't work, then like go for a walk, and then if going for the walk doesn't work, then go to the gym. And most of it's really just distraction strategies anyway. You're not actually dealing with the urges. So most of the
Yeah.
advice on dealing with urges doesn't actually talk about dealing with urges, which is kind
Yeah.
of weird. It actually talks about how to distract yourself until the next urge comes, and then you distract yourself, and then distract yourself, and then eventually you have a relapse, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing that I think is really, really important for people to know, is to have a very, very specific, simple way of dealing with urges, something that
Yeah.
you can stick to every single time, so that ahead of time as well, okay, if I have an urge, I am going to do this. And it has to be as simple as brushing your teeth for 2 minutes. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting brush your teeth, that probably won't help, but it has to
Yeah.
be that simple. You should be able to explain it to a 4-year-old how to deal with your urges. If it's not that simple, it's probably not going to work, because what's going to happen is the addicted part of your mind is going to take over again in that moment that you have an urge, and it's going to create all this junky thinking, and it's going to
Yeah.
use that to get you to relapse. If you're being
Yeah.
indecisive in the moment of an urge, you're going to be spun out into a state of helplessness. And as I say, the addicted mind absolutely loves putting you in that horrible, helpless state. And
Yeah.
it's just going to take
Yeah.
advantage of you, and it's going to win, and it's going to get its relapse. It's going to get its fix. And it's going to keep on going around in this circle. So anything to add to that one, Mary?
Yeah. Well, one of our clients said to me yesterday, he said, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but this is very simple. And I'm like, it's very simple. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, you don't have to think, what kind of thing am I going to do to deal with this urge now? The script, even though it takes some compiling and some learning, once you have it, it really is very simple. And then anything that is trying to complicate your choice making process, that's the addictive part of the mind. So then that's very simple too, even though the addictive part of the mind can try to get all convoluted and creative and try to mess with you. That it's the addictive part of the mind. So then we can deal with that junky thinking, as it comes up. But even the script will handle a junky thought. It'll get you through a junky thought. until you can talk back to that on another level for just like added insurance, you know? But I said, I'm not insulted at all that you think that my work is simple. My life's work is very simple, but it is very simple. And that's kind of the beauty of it, you know? It's like, it doesn't need to be more complicated, because with addiction, there's a couple, you have a choice about how you're going to proceed, but it's A and B. There's two choices, you know, and everything else is the addictive part of the mind trying to bullshit you. And we identify that. And that's some of the good more long-term work we do for people to remain free, you know, permanent
Yeah.
mental freedom. Yeah,
Well,
for
I
sure.
actually think
Yeah.
the more complicated a strategy is to help somebody quit addiction, the more
Yeah.
chance there is of failure. Because
Yeah.
complication, if you're indecisive, then as I say, the addictive part of the mind is just going to use that as ammunition. It
Yeah.
really is that simple.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so just to kind of like wrap up, really, I mean, the
Yeah.
benefits that you're going to experience from actually quitting this as well are probably going to be greater than you can even anticipate. Because when you're stuck in addiction, like I was for 10 years, you can't even really envisage like what life is like without this. Because
Right.
even when you do one of these streaks and you're like a few months in, like you're going to feel pretty energetic and pretty confident and pretty good. But there's still going to be a little part of you in your mind thinking, what if I relapse? Like, how long is this actually going to last for? But when you actually gain permanent freedom through dealing with the urges, as I say, that's the most important thing. If you do anything after watching this video, I just want it to be stop consuming content that talks about reducing triggers, because that's actually holding you back and it's leading to intermittent reinforcement, which is strengthening the addictive neural pathways. But anyway,
Yes.
beyond compulsion, actually living a life permanently free from this is going to lead to more connection and love in your life. You're going to have more care for other people. You're going to really want to impact the world positively, like I'm trying to do now. You're going to probably have a bit more of a laugh as well and take things less seriously, because when you're in addiction, it can be hard to not take yourself seriously.
It's hard
Everything,
to be happy.
it's hard to be happy. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And you can become quite egotistical in a way, in the sense that you're thinking about yourself more than other people. And I don't think this is like people's fault. But I found this anyway. Sometimes I was so focused on trying to solve this problem that I didn't have like the mental capacity to care for like my family or my friends as well as I would have liked. But you're also going to have more like honesty and openness with people, because you're not going to have this part of you that's hidden away like it was for me. And you're probably going to feel a bit more optimistic about life, more joyful, more in control of yourself, and you're going to really feel deserving of love, respect, and connection. And you're going to feel like you can have all of those things in your life. I think hopefully you can feel like that now. That'd be amazing. But I think for me anyway, there was like a small part of me that felt like I didn't really deserve all the stuff I really wanted deep down, because I felt, I needed to sort out this problem first.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to be free from this, to be truly honest. And you also just go after the things you want in life a bit more, and you don't really have anything holding you back any longer. That's been the main thing for me. I feel like I can just
Yeah.
talk very confidently about what I want and go after and get it now. So it's been really nice. So thank you,
Yeah.
Mary, for teaching me the Beyond Compulsion method. It's really changed my life, and hopefully we can change some other people's life too. So if you do want to like get in touch and talk a bit more about where you're at now and actually learn a bit more about this Beyond Compulsion method and have a blueprint call with me and maybe Mary as well, then yeah, just get in touch with me. You can drop me a WhatsApp message and hopefully I can help you. Mary, anything you want to add as well?
I know, but I'm available to talk as well. You know, if anyone has any questions, if they want to sign up for the class, more the history of my work and what I've been doing for all these years. If they have any more questions for me, I'm happy to take a call as well. If they get in touch with you, you can just send them my way too.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, just message me on my WhatsApp and we can just like chat a little bit first and see if we have like a time to book a call in with you. So I'll probably like, I don't know, I'll just send you some time so I'm free and hopefully we can book a call in together. So yeah, that was the final thing. Okay, thanks so much and stay tuned for more content on the podcast, Finally Quit Porn. And we've got YouTube, Thomas Molyneux. Me and Mary are going to do loads of content and try and help people quit this stuff because it's pretty horrible. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye, Tom. Thank you.